What is up, everyone? Today on the channel, taking my brother-in-law's long box extended cab Dodge, second gen Dodge, and we are putting gonna build a long arm kit for it. Basically, radius style with some 2-inch quarter wall with some heims. Anyways, if you know much about it and you found the channel, you know that when you level these out, it ends up pulling that front axle back a little bit. It also takes your factory control arms and puts a little more rake at those, makes it ride a little bit less. So what we're gonna do is lower that down, draw that lower control arm all the way back by the cross member underneath there, and then we're gonna do a radius style, come off that lower arm and capture this upper to set our caster. Lower control arm material we're using is just some DOM. He had it rolling around the back of the truck a little while, so it had some rust on it, but some 2-inch quarter wall, DOM, took and cleaned it up. Obviously, we TIG welded it, did about, I think, 4 passes on it. Set the machine at about 160 amps. Didn't use full pedal most of the time. Maybe in the first startup, but most of the passes end up taking probably, I don't know, I wasn't using full pedal, so it's probably 130 to 140 amps if you care. Yeah, did a couple root passes, then at the very end of it, I ended up, because of the bevel we put into the material to make sure we got enough penetration and weld in there, that I took a couple passes to get 2 side-by-side passes, and then I came back with a finishing pass with a weave. Turned out okay. Definitely is a perishable skill, TIG welding, so that's what they say, weld every day, right? All right, under the truck here, you can see a little bit better now how short those factory arms are. Little kind of T-Rex arms are. Anyways, we're gonna take that lower control arm mount. That's what we're gonna use, and we're gonna bring it back all the way back to the transmission cross member. You can see where there's a couple sections of frame here that come together from the factory that basically have a lot of overlap weld material there, so it should be a really strong area for some control arm mounts. So you can see I started cleaning up a little bit. I'm gonna come back flapper disc a little more. Got a little hump here. I'm gonna stay in front of that. So probably gonna end up marking out right here, bring control arm out here. And then we'll have to mock everything up, make sure we still have enough turning radius with the steering. Otherwise, we'll have to put a bend into the lower control arm before we finish. So I'm not sure where my brother-in-law sourced his control arm brackets that we're gonna use to build this. I haven't seen ones like this. I'm pretty well familiar with all the rough stuff bracketry, which is great stuff to ever use. This one here, I'm not sure where he got. It's plenty of beef. It's all 3/16. Looks like hot rolled, all press broke, but it has a weird step cut into it. Rather than just having a top gusset piece, this has a weird offset to it. You can see the weird offset that is there. The offset goes like this and leaves, basically, when you do it, it leaves a shoulder to weld on that side and also a shoulder to weld on this side, I guess. I'm not sure exactly the purpose of it, but should work fine. Just not what I'm used to. On that note, like I said, for your parts, it's hard to beat Rough Stuff. RoughStuffSpecialties.com, the fast shipping, good parts, good people to talk to. I'm a fan. Okay, so here's that bracket tacked up. I'm about to just weld it out. I've got a bolt in there with that Heim, with the shim in there to keep it, tight and spaced, so we can get the Heim in and out easily without having too much room. You can see I got all tacked in place. I'm going to take it out. You see the shoulder there that they give you. I mean, I guess it's cool. It's fine. Doesn't matter. It's just not what I'm used to. You can see the shoulder under there too. I'll come back and weld that out as well. If you do any of this stuff, if you weld any tube inserts or bungs, inevitably you'll realize that the bung itself is just usually mild steel unless you actually bought some chromoly. But nonetheless, it gets a little overheated, and a lot of times the oxygen will get in there, and the oxides will create like some mill scale. It'll basically just mess up the threads. And then you won't know it until you go to thread in your Heim and you get, halfway in where you needed to be, and the Heim will lock up. And then when that does that, when you pull it out, if you don't pull it out right away, you'll end up pulling the threads out with it. It ends up being a nightmare. I've ended up with huge cheater bars and pipe wrenches and to try to save my Heims, and all it does is just pull the threads out. So after doing that a couple times, you'll realize that you need to invest in some right and left hand threads, taps. I have just a set of 7/8 inch and quarter. That's what I use most of. Unfortunately, it is worth a $200-300 investment for some cheap taps that you're just going to chase the threads with, because it makes a big difference. I'll show you the before and I'll show you the after of how much material gets pulled out of this. It's quite a bit. All right, well, as you see, I cleaned up the lower control arms with the little belt sander. I got it coped. There's a lot of fancy ways to do it, obviously with hole saws and coping jigs and whatnot. I actually find my fastest way is to take a porta band, set up, get my cut started, put the pie into it, and then cleaned up with a flapper disc. And here you can see some of the fit up here. Should be nice. I'm gonna give me a little bit more of a chamfer there for weld. I'll do a couple root passes, and then do a nice finishing pass over it. But should weld up nice. Got everything cleaned up. That little belt sander with the 3M Scotch-Brite Red Scuffy works pretty good for cleaning up all the mill scale. It was cheap, Amazon. You get what you pay for. It's already had some issues. The lockout pin is broken, the spring broke on it, and so it tries to lock itself out pretty often. But yeah, I still recommend it. It makes quick work a lot of this stuff. Here's a little look at the mock-up for the, there's the frame side bracket in place. There's lower control arm going in. I built some little brackets to go into the little cam, the adjustment cam for the basically your alignment, your caster, just to lock it out with a 9/16 hole. That is, I think it's 3/16 chromoly. Should be fine. Then right now I got it in there right now with some mock-up pucks for the bushings, so I can weld it up without melting the bushings. You can see the fit up there. I'm going to put a couple tacks with a MIG so it won't move, and I'm going to remove it all and then put a couple passes of TIG on it. Anyways, that is it. You can see it. That's it's going to look nice, and then you'll figure out the upper end. We'll probably end up, I'll put the bracket in probably right here, and I'll go up to that upper bracket on the axle for the radius arm. And then we got Heim, 7/8 Heim at this end and another bushing at that end. So once I get this in place, we're gonna double check that everything is straight and the axle is where we want it, and then I'm gonna make the upper bracket. So we'll put an angle finder on it. All right, truck's done. Got everything painted, reassembled. Missed a little bit. I got a little bit off camera. I'll do a big walk around. I'm gonna pull it out here in a second. Do a walk around, show you guys a little more in depth of what I did to get this done. Took it for a test drive. Drives real nice. I don't drive this every day, so I can't have really much of a comparison on how it was before. He said that the front end was pretty loose and floppy and pretty harsh riding, but I didn't notice any of that when I drove it. But yeah, it's all done. Caster's set. I set the caster just with an angle finder and a straight edge off the top ball joint. That's a pretty safe, easy way to do it is trying to find a nice flat spot on top of the knuckles. There wasn't much on this generation Dodge, so I ended up putting a straight edge across the top of the ball joints and set it at about 5 degrees. I've always found right there in the 3 to 7, I think is pretty acceptable. I definitely wouldn't go much less than 3 or any less than 3. I definitely wouldn't go past 7. Less than 3, you get those ball joints a little too perpendicular. You'll start seeing that you don't have your steering wheel return to center. You'll start grabbing a few more things in the road. Ride's a little bit rougher. And then of course you set it back too much. When you turn the wheel, your outside tires will rock. You'll rock on the outside tires a little bit more when you're driving. It'll return to center great, but you'll start wearing out the outside of your tires a little faster. So I've always found right in there 5 degrees. Don't take it for gospel. That's just right. That's my happy spot, and I've always had great luck with it. But anyways, took it for a test drive. Drove great. Like I said, I'm gonna pull it out, and I'll give you a good walk around. There's the frame side bracket, 7/8 Heim, upper control arm bracket. That's our adjustment for a caster. Truck looks nice, drives nice. Overall, real happy. If I was gonna do this kit again, first probably would be on the control arm mounts on the axle itself. I would have, and we still might do this in the future, but I would take those apart and I would actually grind off there's a little horseshoe for the eccentric for the alignment puck for that eccentric cam. Anyways, I would take that off and I would overlay it with some more material, some more 3/16 and with a 9/16 hole in it, and weld the whole thing to it. I don't mind using the factory brackets. I think it needed a little more material there, so we might end up doing that. As of now, like I said earlier, I put a little keyway in there out of some 3/16 steel. That should work fine, and I put a couple tacks on it and put a stitch weld at the bottom of it to make sure it locked in there great. But like I said, hindsight's always 20/20. I would do some things different, but nothing to say we can't do that later.